Hey everybody, good morning and sorry for the late start. I had to let the doggos out. That's the whole business behind that. But today I wanted to talk about one of the hot topics essentially, which are verification badges and what they mean on social media and kind of open up the discussion to see what people think about the whole pay to play that's happening right now. So what I mean by that is that those of you who are following or those of you who are on Twitter probably know about Twitter Blue. Essentially, a subscription to pay to play to unlock different features on the platform. And historically, verification badges have been exceptionally beneficial in the fact that users on the platforms then know that they are actually talking to the right person. It's not an impersonator. It's not someone trying to scam you. Things like that. And so celebrities have them. So it's they're a lot of influencers would get the badges. I know several of my own business connections that were on Twitter that would have a verification. And again, it's just one of those I'm going to call him out. He was a previous coach of mine and another connection from Clubhouse. Imagine that. And I would get, he has a program that helps people make six figures in a day, is what he does. His name is Elijah Bowie, for anyone who's interested. But he would have there was a moment where every couple months I'd get a new follower on Instagram and it would be a dupe account that wasn't him. And so the first time it happened, I asked to see if he had a new account because getting locked out or getting banned or getting anything like that is also a frustration in the social media world. And he'd be like, "Nope, not me. Please report." And so as that is happening more and more online, one, change your password to something secure. Put in the numbers, put in the capitalization, put in the symbols. Two, turn on your two-factor authentication. And then save your backup codes. If a platform is giving you backup codes, save those in a secure place, somewhere like a password manager. I personally use LastPass. Not sponsored, would love to be. Not sponsored, but a user of that password manager, or along those lines, just for that added security. Yes, it can be a pain in the butt, but it is also something that's important to help protect your profile. But the verification, and I was always giving him a hard time about it. I'm like, when are you going to get your blue check mark on Instagram? When are you going to get this? He's like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it, that kind of thing. Because previously, the only way that you would be able to get that check mark was through media or press attention. And the trick with that, or the I guess the fine print, not really a trick, the fine print was that it couldn't be a paid article and you had to appear in the media 10 separate 10 separate articles, 10 different instances that weren't paid. So there's a lot of things in the marketing world and PR world, if you weren't familiar with, where you can basically pay to play and have a featured article about yourself. um, and that's something that helps gain exposure, and that's a whole different strategy, right? Mixed feelings on that one, but it works. I know people that have done it and it works. um, but back to the verification badges, it was a way to be like, no, this person is legit, it's who I'm talking to. Because there are a lot of people out there that are like, yeah, we want, yeah, I'm selling this program, it's $2,000. You pay them and they run away with your money, and it's not the actual person. Or they're trying to do what's called social engineering to be able to learn details about you in order to hack into your accounts, like your like your bank account, things like that. So that's kind of the importance of having a verification badge, especially if you are predominant or a big part of your business or what you do is on social media. There's a huge benefit to having that. What's happening with a little bit of history here, actually, TechCrunch released this article a few days ago, on February 27th, actually, by Ivan Mehta, Mehta, Mehta. Anyway, so with Twitter Blue, they introduced their first paid subscription back in June 2021 for Canada and Australia, and later expanded it into the US and New Zealand. After Elon Musk took over the company, he increased the price of the subscription to $7.99 per month and relaunched the plan with features like a blue verification checkmark and priority replies. Again, it's kind of like if you're familiar with LinkedIn, LinkedIn has a LinkedIn premium option. Theirs is more like $50 a month. So but it unlocks features or how you use the platform. So right now they're they have $8 a month for web, and then it's $11 a month if you're just using your mobile phone. Twitter Blue specifically, you get a blue verification check mark so people know that you're a legit account. You can edit your tweets. You can use your NFTs profile pictures. You get priority ranking in conversations, so more visibility in that aspect. You can have bookmark folders, so if you're saving things, if you're using things, or if you're like me, I like to use Twitter as a resource and definitely share that. You get up to 60-minute video uploads, which that might be. I full disclosure, I'm not huge on Twitter. Like I've found one really awesome social media marketer on there that I follow, and a couple others too. So it's I'm a casual user, you could say. Um, so I'm not sure on the video on Twitter. I feel like that's a little. I don't know. I'm sure that there are people who are Twitter all stars that is amazing for. You can write up to 4,000 character tweets. You see fewer ads, which because they're charging you for it, right? And then you get custom app icons and themes. And it's currently available in 15 countries. So what's happening here is that other social media platforms, Meta, aka Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, Tumblr, specifically in this article from TechCrunch, these are other platforms that are also announcing a paid option. And they're also dividing it between web and mobile. So, one of the things that I have a question of, so if you know, or if you've experienced this yourself, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out on Twitter or Instagram, Ashley Smith IRL, because I'd like to know, does that mean, and maybe I could just find that out, because I'm kind of like, does that mean that if I wanted the experience on my phone, but I also, uh, hold on, if I also wanted that to have it on desktop, that I'd have to pay for both? Um, oh, okay. Nope, nope. Subscribers who sign up on one platform will have Twitter Blue access on all supported platforms. Existing Twitter Blue subscribers will be able to upgrade, cancel, or auto-renew their subscription at the new price. So there you go. Quick answer there as far as that goes. Prices do vary by region. This is from a blog straight on Twitter by Patrick Trauber, Traughber. And then, of course, they have, yeah, they're essentially a bunch of different updates, and they're to be able to do that. So that seems like the model, and whether or not people continue, like this continues to be a thing, depends on how much support, too. So according to a report from The Information, there are roughly 180,000 paid accounts in the US and 290,000 paid accounts worldwide. So when we're talking about these big social media companies, it's a little bit of a drop in the bucket, but it's another way to supplement for people where this is important or it matters or it is a um, it is an issue with identity or misidentity, I guess you could say. So bigger brands, or if you're a person, or if your business, or if you personally are on these platforms, this is a big part of your business. It's probably not a bad investment when you think about it. They're currently cheaper than a Netflix subscription, I believe. So so there is that. Um, Zuckerberg announced a premium program, Meta Verified, for Facebook and Instagram. Um, the plan will get the users will get a blue tick, but the company is not taking away any legacy verifications of notable profiles. And that was an area that people on Twitter weren't necessarily happy about because last report that I read is if you had that blue check mark, if you wanted to keep it, you still had to pay. So so there's that. With Meta Verified or the Meta Premium or the Meta Plus, whatever they end up calling it, you get a blue verification badge, extra protection from impersonation, like proactive account monitoring, access to customer support. That one might be exceptionally beneficial for some people. Increased visibility in the comments and recommendations, and exclusive stickers. Right now, this is being launched in Australia and New Zealand, um, as I imagine a test to see how what the success of it would be like there versus launching it in the U.S. We tend to what I found is here in the United States we tend to like really there's a lot of backlash with that kind of thing, with subscription models and stuff. It's and I get it, it's a more cost, but I find it interesting that a lot of these companies um end up launching or doing their beta launch or initial phases in other countries outside of the US. So Snapchat launched Snapchat Plus last June. Snapchat as a marketer is just a little bit harder, and a little bit more harder organically, so more expensive for paid because you really had to, or you really have to have a following for that Snapchat account. Anyway, um, they have more than 2 million paid subscribers from launching in June 2022. It's only $4 a month or $3.99 if you want to be picky. You can ability to pin someone as their number one friend. Priority replies in to Snapstar, the company's program for popular creators. The ability to see the general direction of travel for where friends have moved recently, if they've turned on location sharing. Custom app icons, wallpapers, and notification sounds, rewatch story count, and story expiration controls. And it's currently in over 20 countries, including the US, Canada, UK, France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and United Arab. Um, Next is Reddit Premium. They've had their program for uh, apparently years. In some different capacity. Initially launched, or they had a gold membership and they renamed it or rebranded it to premium in 2018. So it's been a while. It's $5.99 a month. You get ad-free browsing, custom avatars and app icons, 700 Reddit coins per month, exclusive awards to give out to posters, and it's available worldwide. So they're obviously more established in that. On Tumblr, for those using Tumblr, it's $4.99 per month, for an ad-free browsing experience, or it's priced at a discount of $39.99 per year. So this is less about that verification and more about having an ad-free experience. So I will say with the ad-free experience, for those of you who are new here or those who don't know, my family is huge into YouTube. Like it's YouTube is our main source of entertainment, or at least it has been. Now we've got all the things like Netflix, HBO Max, Disney Plus, like name it, we probably have it. But YouTube was huge, especially back in the days when money was a little bit tighter. But now we actually pay it's $19.99 a month for our family plan for up to five users. And conveniently, we have five people in my family. But what that does is it gives us an ad-free experience for content consumption, and we watch a lot of YouTube. I mean, a lot. There's at least someone watching a video at one particular time in our home. And so that, or what that was, that essentially is an ad-free experience, and it's been nice. From a marketing perspective, of course, we're always looking at, okay, well, what is this going to mean an ad-free experience when our clients are trying to get their message out there? And as a digital marketer, not necessarily your social media specialist, having other avenues to be able to reach your customers or your existing clients, or getting cold leads is exceptionally important. You don't want to have all of that hanging on the balance of one particular platform, um, because then that's like if they go down, so does your whole business. So does everything, you know. So email lists are really great. Having a presence on other platforms is really important. Having a solid website too. Knowing that people can still reach you or find a way to reach you. So all of these things are part of your digital presence and your online reputation. So, but again, I'm rambling. So back to the point. Um, with this is it's one of those things where it really depends on where you're at in your business, and how much weight or how much importance it is for your brand or yourself, or even your online identity to be verified. I know a lot of creators that are exceptionally conscious about the safety and the internet safety of their people, and so there are constant messages, and it's just because people are inexperienced, or um, we watch a lot of gaming, so there's a lot of we're the old people watching the the Minecraft videos for younger kids. So they're educating their younger viewers as well in internet safety, and I think that is wonderful. Um, so it's one of those where it's becoming a business expense, but it's one of those, what is your primary platform? And that primary platform can be identified as how much time or the most time that you're spending on a particular platform, or it can be the platform that is making you the most, or making you the most revenue, or giving you the largest ROI. And it's another way for these social media companies to become independent from ad spend, but still meet the financial demands to their stakeholders, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of a grumble, especially if you're looking at, um, you know, $8 with Twitter Blue, you know, 15 bucks with Facebook. If you had Reddit, if you had LinkedIn Premium, that was 50 bucks. I mean, yeah, it can rack up just like the streaming subscription services. But one, this is a tax write-off, and two, it's interesting to see the rewards for paying in. Um, um, and how that works, because when something is free, you are the product, right? If you have access to something and it's free, you are the product. So that's what I just wanted to touch on, the whole situation when it comes to um, verification badges. Yes, it's valid. Yes, it's good. There was the old school way of going about it, which might disappear. But for someone like me who doesn't go have a lot of PR, um, buying in is is a nice option to be able to do that. So we'll see what happens and what develops. But if you participate or if you purchase any of these, I'd like to know what your experience is. And if you think it's worth it, if it's helped you, if it's kept your viewers or your community safer because they know it's you, definitely interested in that because I can see the benefits of it. So the other part of today that I wanted to talk about was a case that came in front of, or that is in front of, um, the United States Supreme Court right now, and that is a little diddly thing called Section 230. Now, I I started this uh, podcast and streaming um, going in. I'm going to stay away from politics, and then it becomes a little bit harder as politics start impacting people and my clients and my work and my agency is when these things start to pop up because it's essentially going to be impacting the social media platforms, social media companies that are happening. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Section 230, what it does is it basically treats internet providers in the same way as telephone companies. So it makes it so that they are not liable for the content that is being delivered or the messaging that's being delivered. According to this article on Forbes, Section 230 was written 25 years ago in the very early days of the internet, which means absolutely nothing like it is how it is being used today. And the Supreme Court heard oral arguments um, a couple days ago, with the Supreme Court. The issue is a lot of the things that have been happening over the last couple of years, and the internet. I think this could be definitely something to watch because the internet doesn't really have borders. Uh, well, it can. I guess China has made it have borders, but anyway, because they control what people can access. Which my answer is, why don't people just buy VPNs? Anyway, um, so the legislation called the Safeguarding Against Fraud, Exploitation, Threats, Extremism, and Consumer Harms (Safe Tech), fancy, pretty good on that one. Pat on the back for them, would allow internet services, notably social media companies, to be held accountable for enabling cyberstalking, online harassment, and discrimination. The bill was introduced February 28th, 2023, in both the House and the Senate, and was originally introduced 2 years ago. So this is a reintroduction. Um, quote from Senator Mark Warner, Democrat in Virginia, one of the bill's sponsors. For too long, Section 230 has given cover to social media companies as they turn a blind eye to the harmful scams, harassment, and violent extremism that can run rampant across their platforms. When Section 230 was enacted over 25 years ago, the internet we use today was not even fathomable. This legislation takes strides to update a law that was meant to encourage service providers to develop tools and policies to support effective moderation and allows them to finally be held accountable for the harmful, often criminal behavior that exists on their platforms. Right now, the Supreme Court is debating the future of Section 230, but the truth of the matter is we have a solution right here in Congress. The legislation will hold platforms accountable for the ads and content they peddle that have real-world consequences. Regardless of the court's rulings, it's clear that we need to act to rein in those companies that have used Section 230 as a shield for far too long. So, essentially, again, not an attorney. I just read this stuff and then digest it and regurgitate it and how it applies to my world, selfishly, and hopefully um, sparking a conversation, sparking some questions that we can have, but also something that other people that you solopreneurs, business owners, you're not necessarily aware of this. Even end users aren't aware of what's happening at this level or how it could impact them. And so I get this. I truly do get this, and I truly understand this. And one of an example, regardless of which side you're on, the prime example because it's so is so predominantly known by casual and professional social media users was when Trump had all of his accounts banned 2 years ago. I think that was 2 years ago because he just got them back on Facebook and Twitter. And there's a big debate about freedom of speech with that move. There's also you know, a, it brought up this question too with Section 230 of how much responsibility do the people providing the tools carry based upon how we use that tool. So it's kind of like we're currently remodeling our basement right now. So I'm going to use this as an analogy. We go to Home Depot and we rent a saw. And then my husband cuts off a finger. Knock on wood that doesn't happen. Okay? Lots of wood. Uh, are we supposed? It's one of those where, um, again, looking in the terms and conditions that nobody ever looks in the terms and conditions when you're renting or purchasing. It's kind of like the iTunes terms of service joke from South Park, right? Um, if there wasn't language in there protecting Home Depot, it would then be opening up Home Depot to, you gave me this tool, I damaged myself, I'm suing you. It's your fault. Now, the question comes into this is how would you monitor that? Like let's look at here. So Facebook has how many active monthly users 2023. So Facebook around the world, according to data reportal, cute, currently has 2.963 billion active monthly users as of January 2023. So I understand the sentiment behind what's happening here, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but at the same time, how do you monitor that? What's this? I'm stuck on the how with this issue. I think because there's some personal accountability that needs to happen, right? And there's only so much that um, technology or companies can do based upon country laws, data privacy. Because the only way to the only thing that I can think of in order to monitor whether someone is a stalker or a racist or discriminatory is that you're tracking all of their activity, which you're using their platform. So yeah, technically they could, but then it starts to I start to like unravel it and it becomes spaghetti issues where, one thing leads to another noodle and it all kind of gets intertwined. And it's just one of those where it's like how without without um violating or impeding on people's freedoms and their ability to use the tools that we've had for forever, right? It's one of those like how do you do that? What's the balance? And when one bad apple ruins it, how what should Meta or Twitter or LinkedIn, what should they have in place to be able to prevent that? I think it's one of those, Instagram, and I think it's some education too. There was a headline when this first happened where it was like laws about social media marketing, or not marketing, laws about social media and the internet are being made by people that don't understand it. And I think that there's some truth there, um, to that. But there's also, you can insert, and this could be an effort too that these companies are working towards, because one, you can only coding takes time, and you don't want to release something that's completely buggy, otherwise you're gonna they're still running a business, they still need users and using them. But it's also one of those where it's like, okay, so Instagram has implemented this feature where you can have control over who can add you to a group chat. You can untag yourself from things that you don't want to be tagged in. They have different inboxes now. You have a primary one for your main conversations. You have a general inbox for general people that are, who your top people are, or anything like that. And then they have a request folder for people that don't follow you, and who you don't follow back and who you don't know. You also have the ability to turn off receiving any messaging from people that you don't know, or that you aren't friends with, or you two don't follow each other. Um, and that was something on Twitter. You can't send a DM unless you're following an account. You know, so it's one of those where I get it, and it's a problem. I think for me, with where things are at, I would like a more intuitive way to untag yourself. Like on Twitter, I can't untag myself from a tweet. Maybe they should add that to to the Twitter Blue subscription. Um, And so, like, yeah, somebody is mentioning random accounts and being like, hey, buy my thing. Well, I don't want to be associated with that scam. So I don't want to be tagged. So I block them. That seems to be, the quick solution right now. But I've also been in this industry and been working with these platforms well, I've been on these platforms since 2006. you know? So what is that, 17 years? Like I'm a MySpace person, for those of you who remember MySpace. And they changed, and that's a whole thing. But and then professionally, I've been doing this for 11 years. So it's my job to know how these things work. And then I share that information with people like you who listen in and want to know, and I just do it for the people that don't care. So it's it really did hit home when it was like these laws and these bills and all of this stuff is being implemented and being talked about by people that don't necessarily know how the platforms work, or the capabilities, or the additional features that you can have. It was even yesterday on my Facebook page, an older gal, I'm not going to call her out with name or age or anything like that, but older than me, had shared on her Facebook page, hey, it was announced, Facebook is going to be charging, and by posting this, I'm saying that I don't want to be charged, blah, 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 and you can't do this and that kind of thing. And it just doesn't work that way. And yeah, we're having the subscription. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, I guess they're kind of, they are kind of, going to be charging people, but you have to opt in. You can't, it's not just like a blanket thing that they're going to do. Now, without a lot of advertising and a lot of education, right? And a lot of opt-in, you know. Um, but it's again, it's one of those, paste this or copy this or share this to let everybody know that I do not give them permission to charge me. I do not give them permission to use my photos. I do not. That stuff doesn't work, y'all. Um, and it's an older generation where I would, um, drop a lot of the politicians, a lot of the lawmakers. That I mean, look at the Supreme Court, you know, and so it's it's something that's coming down the pipeline. It's something that's being discussed. Where yes, I understand safe tech. Um, even Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat in Minnesota. We need to be asking more from big tech companies, not less. How they operate has a real life effect on the safety and civil rights of Americans and around the world, as well as our democracy. Our legislation will hold these platforms accountable for ads and content that can lead to real world harm. So the solution to me is less AI until AI gets more sophisticated and more humans, right? Because there's also people who are in industries and who are doing honest work in business that are automatically being um, targeted because of bad people. Real example, I had a client and they sell they have a ranch, and they sell grass-fed beef. Great product, awesome product, really cool family. It's a family-owned ranch, not a big outfit or anything like that. They follow all the FDA protocols. They go with the USDA requirements and policies and all of that. Their products for a Facebook store kept getting flagged because they kept being told that they're selling animals. Well, they're selling food and it's beef and it's in the US only. So that's where that's where AI had failed in that particular scenario. In my opinion, that's where AI had failed. Um, so let's see here. Uh, it looks like from here, Warner, who is chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said that the act would force online service providers to deal with improper use of their platforms. Not a bad thing. Until you can't find them because it was a fake email, a fake phone number, and they got an account, right? So again, tying into, hey, verification badges might be a good investment. Those that don't can now face civil liability, something that wasn't possible previously. And Safe Tech Act also clarifies and updates Section 230 in other ways. For example, advertising and other paid content is not protected, eliminating the cover that misleading content scams and fraud. It also makes clear that injunctive relief isn't protected, allowing consumers to take legal action when content on a provider site is likely to cause irreparable harm. Safe Tech Act removes any protection preventing enforcement of civil rights laws. It also removes any protection against wrongful death actions. The wrongful death issue has been played an important role in cases before the U.S. Supreme Court and in courts in the EU after information found on the internet contributed to a series of terrorist bombings in Paris. So we're not talking about so and so, stole my boyfriend and now, or I'm dating this new guy and he's got a psycho ex-girlfriend. Terrorist attacks are kind of a big deal, like just national security. So it's definitely a fine line. It's a fine line, and it's one of those where this is happening. I'm coming in at the beginning of this conversation. I knew it existed, and honestly, this is a big exercise too in with journalism. People putting out articles and things like that because it's one of those, where is the line when it's the United States. How I interpret it is that everyone has freedoms. People have freedom to be a jerk, unfortunately. Um, and these tech companies are privately held. That's why there's not freedom of speech when they kick Trump off the platforms. They're privately owned companies that are publicly traded. I did do some research on that whole situation because I was intrigued on how they could do that, right? But it's kind of like one of those, you have the freedom to do it, just, what, not my house, not my house, kind of like that. So, yes, there are problems. Yes, there are issues. Um, I, I don't, I think that there are other tools and other pressures that could be held, like, that could be implemented, and that tech companies should prioritize those things. But it's also hard when you have 10-year-olds creating a fake account so they can be 13 and get on social media. There's no verification process for age. Now, as an end user, would you want to send a picture of your driver's license or your passport to a server owned by a social media company to be able to open an account? Like that, like there's a data privacy issue because what happens when those servers are hacked? It's one of those where, you know, uh, different topic that we could talk about another time for sure. But COPPA, uh, let me know. I know the acronym, but to I fail to remember what it is. COPPA. So that is uh hold on. Okay, so Children's Online Privacy Protection Rule. This was a big deal with YouTube because people were arguing that ads were being targeted towards children. YouTube doesn't allow children under the age of 13 to create their own accounts. So, but you see it all the time. You've probably done it. I've done it. Your kid wants to watch a YouTube video, you hand over your phone that's logged into yours, and they watch the YouTube video that they want to watch. And it's one of those things where it's like, how is YouTube supposed to be held accountable for that? Yes, there are things in algorithms, and yes, violence and all of this stuff, but it's how without one implementing AI that has a high potential to fail in these circumstances, because it's made huge strides for those of you who have been with me watching all the chatbots and ChatGPT and all that stuff. Huge strides. It's amazing improvement, but it's still not foolproof. So it's one of those, how do you prevent a piece of content from being flagged going through this AI process, that once people figure out how to use backdoors and kind of, gray hat the process, because that word spreads, dude, and it spreads faster than coders can code. Okay. To actually finding the content that is inappropriate to be, or what a parent feels is inappropriate for the child to watch based upon their age. Like that's my devil's advocate question for all of this is, why is YouTube supposed to be held responsible because an adult gave their 9-year-old a phone while the adult watches Call of Duty? So the algorithm is giving, more violent video games, first person shooter content, things like that. But then they hand their phone over to their kid. And then that parent also doesn't know, hey, you can create a kid account. You could create a kid experience. Why would they know that if they're not paying attention to it? And maybe that's something where it's like, well, they should have found out. But then why is that YouTube's fault in this particular situation? Why is that YouTube's responsibility? And just to wrap up that whole rant, YouTube then passed it along to the creators, it being the creators' responsibility, but then didn't give them any tools, and they also don't have any say in what ads run. So there's that problem too. And then there's also content creators who have been on the platform since YouTube went live in 2005. So they joined in like 2005, 2006. Or they've been on there for 10 to 13 years. Now they had to go back and like flag all of their content as child friendly. And then all of that content, because it was child friendly, also YouTube's solution was, well, we're not going to, then you don't get ad revenue from your content. And we're talking about people who's made their careers doing this. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know about that. So, my political stance on this is that it's something to watch. I think that there can be improvement. I think that there can be more understanding about how the internet works. I think both sides can do better. I think there can be more education, and people, if they're going to use a tool, can be more educated in how it works. Are people going to do that? No. Um, but then and I'm thinking of very small instances, issues with the attacks in Paris. Yeah, that's 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 kind of a big deal, you know. And it comes into uh, privacy. So it's even with Google. One part of this is Google versus Section 230. With this brings up the Gonzalez case on November 13th, 2015. Nohemi, so bad at names. Gonzalez, a 23-year-old U.S. citizen studying in Paris, France. Yep. was eating at a cafe when three ISIS terrorists, including a name I'm not going to try and pronounce, sprayed bullets into the crowd and shot her, resulting in her death. What does that have to do with Google? Where apparently ISIS regularly used YouTube for terror recruitment purposes. So it's a lot of the question is, so the Gonzalez family ended up suing Google under a federal statute that provides a civil remedy to victims of terrorism in suits against any defendant that aids and abets terrorism. So the argument is Google was aware that this was happening. They didn't do anything to stop it. They're supporting terrorism by letting this content exist. I'm not going to debate that this stuff is bad. That is not, absolutely not the debate. That I don't think that it should exist. But the fact of the matter is that it does. And you start violating people's rights by saying what they can and cannot post or share on the internet on your platform. Again, privately owned, publicly traded companies, which I'm pretty sure that's what Google is, how they're structured too. I know Meta is. But it's one of those where it's like, if this is happening in your home, are you going to tolerate it? I don't know. It's a big debate, and it's complicated, and it's political. So just don't come at me, because like both sides can be better. If you're, it's just interesting how this all changed and how things are going to work. Because even here, that they're stating a stat on, so the American Conservative. I like to share where I'm reading this stuff from, so you can check it out yourself or get a little bit more context on who's writing this or publishing it. But when Section 230 was passed, there was no Google, Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, and the average American surfed the internet for only about 30 minutes a month. So things have changed. So I will give them props for the government trying to catch up to the times when it comes to technology. I just think that there is a little bit lack of education. I think with them on technology and me with the issues, to be completely fair, right? I'm not saying that I know everything and this is how it needs to be and this is how you stop terrorists and this is how you stop hate crimes and this is how you stop harassment. I think everybody can do better. But anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening live with me, David and Lisa, here on Fireside. We're going to have another episode next week. I hope to have that scheduled as soon as I figure out what I'm going to rant about. If you have comments, feedback, suggestions, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to me, Ashley Smith IRL, on Twitter and Instagram. We can collaborate and have some fun together, maybe a little bit lighter subject than the Supreme Court in the United States and what's going on with that. And I just appreciate everyone who takes a listen and takes the time to support me just by being here. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
It's no secret